Good morning, everybody. My name is Anthony Kim, and we're going to talk a little bit this morning about mobile marketing using push messaging. We're going to talk a little bit more about what push messaging actually is and how it's being used in the various industries today. We're going to talk a little bit more about how you can actually market using push messaging, and also talk about the strategies around push messaging and sort of what you want to accomplish and how you want to measure those accomplishments. So first of all, a push message is a message that is pushed to a user via a mobile app. So quick show of hands, how many people here have received a push message or think they've received a push message before on their mobile phone? Okay, most of the audience, that's good. Push messaging can come in two forms. They can come in the form of being just a simple text message, or they can come in the form of being a rich push message. In an example here, we have a typical message that you see, just has a little bit of copy on it. But in the case of a push message, it might be something a little bit more elaborate. It might have a little bit more of a visual experience. It might have a graphic, a picture, and a little bit more of a call to action than a standard text message would. Well, where do these things come from, and how do you go about actually sending them out? Well, it's a very simple process. You simply have to have an internal server somewhere that's connected to Apple's push messaging service or Google's push messaging service, or you can use one of the many third-party platforms that are out there. You simply compose the message or offer that you want to put together. You go ahead and define who this message should go out to, and you go ahead and set the schedule for it and the frequency that the messages should be sent out. It's that simple. In terms of the benefits, well, everybody has a phone today, and everybody's usually carrying that phone with them. So when you send a push message to somebody's phone, you're going to get immediate visibility. It's going to pop up on your home screen, you're going to get a little notification, and most times, other than not, the user's going to take a look and see what the message is about. Visibility is immediate. You don't have to open an app to take a look at it. Another thing is, as opposed to email messages, they don't get caught up in spam filters like email does. There are no character limits like there are with text messages. And finally, there is no cost to the user. There's a minimal cost that takes place through the sender, but otherwise, as long as the user is opted in, there is no cost to them. So regarding uses in the industry, basically any industry that you can think of is using push messaging. And here are some examples that you guys have probably seen yourselves. So in the retail sector, you've seen a number of different push messages that come from all the different retailers and e-tailers about different sales that are going on, or different offers, or even messages that are encouraging you to come into the store for a special offer so that they can drive their traffic. In the travel industry, you're getting offers about specials, discounts to this place or that place. You're also receiving push messages regarding the status of maybe your flight or the trip that you just went ahead and purchased. In the hospitality industry, reminders about your room. It's time to check in, or you've been upgraded. In the restaurant industry, a great offer that has come out for this weekend, or maybe a push notification that said your reservation's confirmed, and provides you with a time and a confirmation. In the banking industry, status about your account, your checking, whether you're overdrawn or not, things like that. And in the insurance industry, status of your claims, or perhaps even evaluations about your credit status or risk. Regarding advanced uses, we're starting to see a lot more advanced uses, especially in retail store environments. We're starting to see more and more retailers use geofenced offers. So what that means is they'll go ahead and section off a certain area or a region or even a city block. And once you actually come into contact with that area or break through that so-called invisible fence, they may go ahead and send you an offer. In this case, we had a specialty retailer who decided to go ahead and invite users of their app who were in a particular location that was close to this store to a private invite-only VIP trunk sale. In other cases, we're starting to see retailers use beacons in the stores so that if you're actually walking down an aisle at a Target or a PetSmart or a Walmart, and based on your characteristics or preferences that you've set in your app, you might receive a push message on your phone, depending on if there's a special offer going on or if they want you to go ahead and take action regarding a particular product. And we're starting to see more and more push messages being sent to wearables, like your Fitbit. So if you have, let's say, a workout program that's going on, you might receive a push message on your Fitbit that says, hey, congratulations, you just received, or you just achieved a new milestone in your fitness program. In terms of using push messaging as a marketing tool, there's a number of different things you can do with it. Some of these are simple as just informing the customer about something, providing them with some basic text, providing them with some basic information about a product or service that you have. In other cases, you're actually trying to drive engagement with your application. In that case, you might go ahead and send out messages that really cause the user to tap on that message and open the app and take some kind of course of action. In some cases, you actually want to convert the customer, whether it's on a mobile device, whether it's trying to get them to purchase something online, or whether it's trying to actually get them to come in the store and purchase something there. And finally, push messaging can be used to reactivate dormant customers. And these are customers that actually have your app downloaded and have opted into push notifications, but they're simply not using the app. So in terms of informational marketing, again, this is simply just providing a message for a customer that's valuable to them. Really what you're doing is you're just providing this service which the customer really needs or values. In the case of Parcel Track here, it's simply a notification that you have a package coming from Zappos. You've been waiting for this thing. Now you know it's on its way. If you want to take further action, you can go ahead and tap on that, open up the app, and get more details about it. But in this case, it's simply enough just to know that it's coming. In the case of the Starwood Group, just a notification about your reservation at the hotel tonight. Your room has been upgraded. Great news. Appreciate the message. Uber. Your Uber is arriving now. Again, no need to take action, but just informational. You know that your ride is arriving now, so you're able to go out and prepare for that. And then finally, with an app called Ergonomics, this is a fitness app. Just a quick reminder, hey, it's time to stretch as part of your fitness routine. In terms of engagement, engagement really involves using actionable messages. And the whole goal here is to go ahead and have the user read that message, tap on the message, open up the app, and engage with it and do something. One of my favorites is the My Pregnancy app from Baby Center. And I think we have somebody here from Baby Center who's going to be speaking later on today. But I personally have not gone through the child process, but I studied this app quite a bit, and the people who have used it. And I can tell you, it's probably one of the favorites from everybody that uses this. And here's why. Especially for the new parents that have never experienced a pregnancy before, a lot of times you don't know what to experience, and you don't know what to do in certain situations, and you're just sort of curious about the whole process. Well, what you do with My Pregnancy is you go ahead and sign up, you go ahead and create an account, and you go ahead and let the app know when you're due. And from there, it goes ahead and creates a schedule for you. And along the way, it'll go ahead and notify you about different milestones in the pregnancy process. In this case, I got a push message that said, you're 6 weeks pregnant. And it talks about some of the major developments that are happening. So what am I going to do? I'm going to tap on that message, I'm going to open up the app, and I'm going to find out a little bit more about what's going on. And in this case, it provides you with more of a visually engaging experience that talks about, what you're experiencing, what your baby's experiencing, sort of gives you visual references as well to what's happening with the baby, and sort of creates that anticipation about, this is really cool, what's going to happen next time? And when that next message comes in, most likely that person's going to go ahead and tap on that message and get an update again to find out what's going on with their pregnancy. The Tinder app, so disclaimer here, I personally don't use the Tinder app here, but I suppose if I did, and I got a message that said, hey, I've got a new match, most likely I'm going to go ahead and tap on that message and find out what's going on and see who this message is or who this match is that I got matched up with. But again, really driving engagement to the point where you need to tap on that message and you want to open that app and engage with that brand or engage with that app. In this case, Trulia, if you're in the rental market or the real estate market, you know that time is of the essence. And when a property comes up that really meets your needs, you really need to jump on it. What Trulia does is, based on the preferences that you have set up, it'll go ahead and send you a message when a particular property that you've been looking for shows up. In this case, it shows that a couple properties are available for rent that meet my criteria. I'm going to go ahead and tap on that message, open up the Trulia app, stop what I'm doing, and try to figure out if these meet my criteria, and if so, I need to go ahead and jump on that as soon as possible. And then finally, the news apps tend to send out a lot of push messages about breaking news and sometimes just ridiculous, frivolous stories. In this case, I got a message from CNN about Donald Trump. And it says, foreign policy and his administration would replace randomness with purpose, ideology with strategy, and chaos with peace.
There's no truth filter on there.
So I don't care what side of the fence you're on, but when you see a message like this, don't you just want to tap on it and see what the heck's going on? So, again, examples of, different kind of messages and sort of what they're trying to convey, and basically, showing that these can be very actionable and they can cause users to engage with your applications. In terms of conversion, in a lot of cases, you're actually going to want to convert your customers. You're going to want to have them tap on that message, engage with your app, and purchase something, take advantage of a sale, or even drive them to a store location where they can go ahead and complete a sale. Just anything that has to do with the funnel, the purchase funnel, to get them either started or have them complete that purchase is the goal here. And what you can do is you can really drive either a future or a current purchase through some of these offers. In this case, Walgreens has notified me that I have 3 prescriptions ready to refill. So Walgreens had discovered that most people refill their prescriptions first thing in the morning or very late at night. And the problem with that is a lot of people are busy during that time. They're either getting ready for the day or getting ready for work, or they're winding down, and the last thing they want to do is refill their prescription. They may not remember it. So Walgreens began sending out push messages at those key times, and what they discovered was the reminder was enough to trigger an action by the customer, because all the customer had to do was tap on this message that would open up the Walgreens app. They would go ahead and tap on a camera button and refill their prescription in about 15 seconds. They were increasing the response rate magnitudes. I mean, I can't even describe the numbers. It was just ridiculous. But if you think about a typical, let's say, marketing campaign that might get maybe a 1 or 2% response rate, it was in magnitudes of that. Another example is Groupon. You see a lot of this where they have a special going on and they want to go ahead and have you tap on that message immediately and try to take advantage of that offer while the offer is still available. Here we have an offer from Pizza Hut that talks specifically about an in-app or online deal that's available tonight and tonight only, where you can receive 10% off. So that I know if I go ahead and tap on that message, it'll go ahead and begin the actual purchase cycle. And then finally, Starbucks took a different approach here. We talked a little bit about this a little earlier. But here they went ahead and sent out messages to people that were actually within proximity of a particular store, inviting them to come into the store, drive some store traffic, and at the same time trying to convert these customers with a special offer for a particular store location. Reactivation is another method that can be used in order to get customers back through the use of push messaging. So with reactivation, what you're really trying to do is engage a user who has already downloaded your app, who has gone ahead and opted into push notifications, but is simply not using the app. And what happens here is you provide them with a message. That message has to be compelling. It has to be enough to go ahead and bring them back into the app or re-engage with your brand. In the case of 8-Tracks here, they used a little bit more of a comical approach. They went ahead and said, come back, we miss you, we can change. So they had been receiving a lot of customer complaints, and because of that, they went ahead and made some changes to their app. When they made the changes and they felt that the user experience was greatly improved, they went ahead and sent out a message like this, trying to bring some of those customers back. In the case of Rue La La, we have a message. We haven't seen you in 30 days, not that we're counting. Borders a little bit on the creepy factor, like they're monitoring my daily activities. But in this case, Rue La La went ahead and looked at customers who had not been active on the mobile app within the past 30 days and decided to do something to try to bring them back. I think this could have been a little bit more effective if they had an offer tied to it. But in this case, they were able to go ahead and bring some customers back to that simple notification, just to build awareness with the customer that the app is still here. And then finally, Runkeeper. You've signed up for this app in order to start a fitness program or to track your health. And for some reason, you haven't been using it. Well, Runkeeper will go ahead and send you a message that says, hey, let's work out. You thought this was the perfect time a while back, remember. Just a friendly reminder telling you about the application, telling you, hey, we're still here. You used us and loved us before. Come back and use it some more. In terms of trying to retain these customers, the key advantage that you have is they still have the app on the phone, and they've already opted in to push messages, and you need to take advantage of that. Cost per app acquisition numbers range all over the board. I've seen it as little as 50 cents. I've seen it as high as $10, $15. A number that was quoted by Urban Airship, which is a push messaging platform provider, is $3, which is about average. If you're spending $3 to go ahead and acquire a new customer, isn't it easier just to send out a push message to an existing customer to try to bring them back? It's just something to think about as you're thinking through your push messaging and marketing strategies. So regarding the strategies, there's a couple key points here to talk about in order to make sure that your campaigns are successful. And I think the first one is very important. It's a little harsh, opt in or die, but it's the truth. Because if your customers are not opting in, you can't reach them. You've lost them. For a lot of the major retailers, we're seeing about a 50% opt-in rate for their applications. And out of that, some stats that were thrown out, they've seen somewhere in the magnitude of an 88% increase in engagement and almost a 3x rate of improvement in retention. You have to do everything you possibly can to get these customers to opt in. I'll give you an example of what Walmart has been using in the past. So if you download the Walmart app or any app in general on the iOS platform, you'll basically get a text pop-up that says, hey, we'd like to go ahead and send you push messages. Well, in the case of Walmart, you might go ahead and do that because you trust the brand a little bit more. But if you're downloading an application that you're really not sure of or you haven't had any experience with that brand, you're going to be hesitant to go ahead and opt in and accept those push notifications because you just don't know what they're going to send you. The option that you have, though, on the iOS platform is you can go ahead and create more of a visual message that talks about the value proposition, gives examples of perhaps what the customer might accept, or perhaps give them an idea of the benefits of opting in to push messaging. Studies have shown that using visual messaging such as this in order to get the customers to opt in increases the opt-in rate magnitudes, just magnitudes. Another thing to think about in your strategy is less is actually more. And I'll give you an example of this. So really the frequency of the messages that you get is really critical. I went ahead and opted in to the ESPN app in order to receive notifications for my favorite sports teams, my Chicago sports teams. So I got a message that's talked about the Bulls game. The Bulls are losing. Okay. The next day, or later on that day, I got another message. And it had to do with the Eagles and signing Sam Bradford. Okay, interesting message. I really didn't opt into that. I was really, more focused on receiving messages about my Chicago sports teams, but okay, good to know. A couple days later, I start getting more and more messages, and they're not even relevant anymore. This was at 8:54 in the morning, and it talked about all these different things that were going on in the sports world that I really didn't care about. At 8:55, I opened the app up and I opted out of push notifications. Now ESPN can no longer reach me. Another thing to consider with the frequency of your messaging is also coordinate that with your CRM strategy. So in a lot of cases, the people that are sending out emails or the people that are contacting customers via the phone or sending out other forms of marketing messages don't engage with the people who are responsible for the push messaging strategy. And in a lot of cases, you're getting a lot of duplication of offers. You're getting overwhelmed, the customer's getting overwhelmed with too many messages, and they're going to simply start opting out of everything at that point. So the key is to make sure that you have a comprehensive strategy going forward with your messaging. And then you have to make the messages meaningful. They have to be personalized. You just can't send out generic messages that say, hey, we've got a sale going on, open up our app. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. They need to be actionable. They need to be enticing. They really need to cause the customer to tap on that message, open it up, and engage with your application. And finally, test, test, test. As with regular conventional marketing, simple things like wording, content, layout, and things like that play a very, very important part with push messaging, especially since push messaging takes place in a very concentrated space, a very personal space, and is limited to a certain section that pops up on your home screen. So it's very, very important to make sure that you continue to test and make sure that you have the optimal layout, text, messaging, and so forth to increase your engagement. In terms of measuring success, the messaging absolutely must provide some kind of value. And we talked a little bit about that before in terms of being relevant and having value. I love to pick on Macy's with their push messaging because they send out messages all the time. I don't know if any of you other guys have the Macy's app and have push messaging opted in, but I got a message one day that says, "Hey, this is major, free shipping on all orders, hundreds of incredible specials. Are you clicking yet?" No, I'm not. I mean, there's really nothing there that's relevant to me. It really doesn't provide any value to me. Macy's has sales all the time. It's just another notification that's taking up space on my device and wasting my time. So a little bit later, I get another message. 75% off select women's shoes, free shipping at $75. You should totally grab a pair of 6. Okay, it's kind of funny, but not really relevant. I mean, I don't buy women's shoes. I don't wear women's shoes unless they know something I don't. And it didn't provide any value to me. So I'm really starting to think about maybe opting out of these messages going forward. And then finally, I get another message that talks about registering for their wedding registry. And I wasn't even going out with anybody at the time, so I don't know what was going on. Again, if they knew something that I didn't. But at that point, I decided, you know what, these messages have absolutely no value to me, no relevance. I'm opting out of these messages, and they lost me forever. So as you're measuring success, you definitely want to keep track of how many people are staying opted in, or how many people like me are opting out of your push messaging campaigns. You also want to identify the click-through rates. And in a lot of cases, click-through rates here can be as much as 2 times the amount of click-through rates in emails. And I think that can actually go higher depending on the campaign that you're running and depending on whether or not it's informational or you're trying to do some engagement or actually drive people for conversion. You also want to just overall determine the effectiveness of these campaigns through other metrics. Just try and understand the value as related to the other portions of your marketing strategy. And you also want to measure direct conversion. That's very important, especially for your retailers that are trying to push these people down the purchase funnel. And then finally, if you're trying to bring back or re-engage those customers that have been dormant, you want to understand what the effect is. Are you being able to bring those back? Are you able to retain those customers? And is there some kind of cost benefit that's happening here that's more efficient than trying to acquire a new customer? So to sum things up, we talked a little bit about push messaging and how it can be effectively used throughout the various industries that are there. Again, with all the industries that are out there, they're pretty much all using push messaging to some extent, depending on what they're trying to accomplish. And I think with all the different projects and partners that you're working with today, you can find uses for that as well. We talked a little bit more about some of the main objectives of push messaging and how they can provide information or how they can actually increase engagement with your app or with your brand or even with your retail stores, and how you can drive conversion, again, whether it's online or whether it's through the stores themselves. And then finally talking about how you can actually try to regain or retain those customers that have the app and are actually opted in to push messaging but simply just don't connect. Some of the key strategies that we talked about, again, it's opt in or die. That's really critical. Again, don't overwhelm the customers with too many messages. Less is actually more in this case. You need to make those messages very meaningful. And finally, you need to go ahead and test to make sure that you're optimizing the response rates to your campaigns. And then finally, we talked about the results and how push messaging can actually increase the response rates of those customers that are using your apps and who engage with your stores and other properties. We also talked about how we could go ahead and drive revenue with the app as well as measure the overall effectiveness of different campaigns. But anyway, I hope you learned something about push messaging today, and I guess as you're going forward with your mobile marketing campaigns, it'd be wise to think about push messaging and utilizing that as a part of your campaigns going forward. Thank you.